The second Fighter's Pass for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is currently in development, and its first fighter is Min Min from the ARMS franchise. And that's awesome! And do you know why that's awesome? It's because she's the best ARMS character. Yeah, that's right, I said it! In addition to her popularity in ARMS, she has a few unique assets that allow her to be a newcomer unlike any other. Her ranged fighting style, in combination with the ability to manually choose between faster and slower aerial attacks, allow for her to be quite the diverse fighter. Personally, I'm very excited to have her in Smash. But what does this mean for me in accomplishing my goals? You see, as a competitor who is trying to one day meet Masahiro Sakurai, the addition of any new character is enough to shake up the playing field and cause me to endure a few additional struggles as I attempt to reach my goal. With every new character is a new matchup for me to learn. But this time, things are a bit different. In addition to needing to prepare to battle against upcoming Min Min players, I think I'm gonna play her too. Yeah, that's right. I think I'm gonna main Min Min.
Game! Min Min!
Humans, I'm Yoshiller, and welcome back to another episode of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's Road to Sakurai! And folks, in case you don't already know, I'm a fan of ARMS. And more specifically, I'm a fan of Min Min. Oh, Min Min! No! Good times. Min Min was my go-to character in ARMS, and I played a fair share of noteworthy matches with her. Traditionally, I'd use some sort of electric glove on her left hand and some sort of missile glove on her right, and her swift playstyle in combination with the gimmick of having her left arm be stronger than her right were just the elements that allowed me to have a fun time with her. Of course, as time went on, I, among many other players, moved on to various other Nintendo Switch titles, but I'll never forget the fun times that I had with ARMS. With that said, when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was initially announced, it seemed almost inevitable that some sort of ARMS representative would appear in Smash. But at the time, we, the fans, all thought that Springman would be the character that was picked. After all, he was the titular, colorful guy on the game's box art. He was the Ryu of the game. He was the standard all-around fighter that beginners could use. Surely he'd be a great pick to represent the ARMS game, and hopefully one day ARMS franchise. But when he was shown to be an assist trophy, and thus not a playable character, the Smash community said a collective, oh well. But I do admit, in hindsight, it was a little suspicious that no ARMS songs made it into the game, yet we got music from Xenoblade 2, Splatoon 2, and Mario Tennis Aces. That should have been a dead giveaway that ARMS could have been represented down the line, but oh well, I guess we know now. Now I know that the DLC characters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate were chosen and developed after the base game had completed its development, but I do think it's kind of funny that the game came out, 5 additional characters were released, and now 2 years after the game's initial announcement, Sakurai and the development team decided this was the appropriate time to add an ARMS character. I mean, we were already willing to accept the fact that ARMS wouldn't have too much representation in Smash. I mean, the game already sold reasonably well, it didn't need Smash promotion material. And yet, announcing that an ARMS rep would join the fray nearly 2 years later does make things just a bit more interesting. In a time when Smash is being used to popularize certain franchises, I guess it would make sense to add an ARMS character to help popularize ARMS. But like I said, it already sold pretty well, and it doesn't make much sense to add an ARMS character now, especially since an ARMS 2 has yet to be announced. I guess they just decided that ARMS was a fun game, and now it deserves to be represented. But this announcement is a pretty huge deal to me. In fact, it's a bigger deal than it has any right to be. I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of players out there who are excited that Min Min is joining the roster, yet, to me, personally, I haven't been this excited for a new character in a long time. Don't get me wrong, any new character reveal is exciting, but there's something to be said about wanting a specific character and then getting exactly that. Look, Ridley joining the game is cool. King K. Rool, awesome, I voted for him on the Smash ballot. But I already got the characters I wanted, and yet, somehow Smash decided that there was another character I somehow wanted And I got her, and I got this same exact feeling of excitement as those Ridley fans did, or as those King K. Rool fans did. And beyond that, there's something to be said about each character getting such a warm welcome, almost as if each new character addition is some sort of celebration. The idea that Min Min being added was something I never considered until the team announced that an ARMS fighter was on the way, yet the realization of seeing that it was Min Min and seeing her be received so well is truly something special. That was a mouthful. Here, let me elaborate. It's a weird feeling to already have pretty much any character you'd ever want to be in Smash. And yet, there's still somehow a character out there that I never knew I wanted. To put it in perspective, back in the day, I suppose the only characters I really wanted were Sonic and I guess King Dedede. But even going into Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I didn't really have the mindset of, ooh, I want this character. Without delving too much into third-party characters, I think even beyond that, once we got the initial reveal trailer, we got most of the Nintendo All-Stars. It was just a matter of, when Brawl was announced, Meta Knight was shown, so I had to ask, well, what about Dedede? And then Sonic was announced, on my birthday no less, and Dedede was just shown a few months after that, so I was content. And then Smash 3DS and Wii U entered development, and even at that time I figured, well, we already got all the Nintendo All-Stars, who's left? I guess if I wanted a third-party character, I'd want Mega Man, and Punch-Out got a recent game, so Little Mac is probably a candidate. Oh, and King K. Rool would be neat too. And eventually, we got all of them. King K. Rool a bit later, but we got all of them. And so when Nintendo launched the Smash ballot back in 2015, I voted for King K. Rool not necessarily because he's one of my all-time favorite characters, but rather because I figured he'd be a possible candidate that I know a lot of my friends wanted. And eventually, we got him. And I was excited for his reveal, but I was more so excited because I knew my friends would be excited. And we eventually got Banjo-Kazooie, and that was pretty historic, and that was another example where I didn't request the character, but I wanted that character because I know they'd make my fans and my friends happy. I already got all the characters I could ever want. I got my Sonic, I got my Dedede, I got my Little Mac. And look, I'll still be hyped for character reveals. Any new character is a huge deal. But at this point, I'm more just happy for my friends and fans that wanted these characters rather than being happy for myself. I don't think there's another character that would make me beg and shout, please, 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 ever again. At least that's what I thought, but then came Min Min. And it's a weird feeling. Her reveal made me so excited. Sure, her inclusion isn't anything as monumental as someone like Cloud or Hero or Banjo, but even the speculation that she could be a fighter in the game gave me that sense of young childhood excitement again. She's a character that I wanted, not because my friends or my fans wanted her. I wanted her, and I didn't even know that I wanted her. But the moment that there was a chance she could be a fighter in the game, I realized that that was something I just wanted. I know that I'm sounding like a broken record, but this is the only Smash fighter that has me in this weird hamster wheel of excitement and thoughts. She's a character that I initially wouldn't have ever requested or even wanted, but then the Smash development team said that there was going to be an ARMS representative in the game and that it wasn't necessarily going to be the most obvious choice. It didn't have to be Springman. It could have been any of the ARMS characters. And so that's when I started thinking, oh, so it could be Min Min. And then that's when I realized, oh, so it could be Min Min. That's why I recorded my reaction to that ARMS trailer, because it could have been Min Min, and it was Min Min. And boy am I glad that I recorded my reaction. And that's just so cool. As someone who didn't grow up with Banjo-Kazooie, I don't think I could have ever had the same amount of awe and appreciation that some fans had when they were announced. But I played ARMS, and I mained Min Min even before the game was officially released. And so I rooted for Min Min when I heard that there was a chance that she could be included, and I got her. And to be fair, I still would have been content with any other ARMS pick. Except maybe Springman or Springtron, ironically enough. I mean, come on. You spend 4 months building up hype based on the fact that the representative for ARMS could be anyone and you still went for the basic default pick? That would have been boring. I still would have taken Twintel or Ninjara or Dr. Coil, and I know some people really wanted those characters, but as selfish as it may sound, it would have been nice to see those characters, but it's nicer to be on the side where I didn't have to just settle for someone. I got the character that I wanted. So can I just have this small bit of satisfaction without being called selfish or egotistical? I'm just so excited that I got the fighter that I wanted. And so it only stands to reason that I should main Min Min, right? But why should I main her? Why should I prioritize maining her over any other character in the game? Well, I have my reasons and my stories. So I play a lot of different video games, and generally when I pick a main in Super Smash Bros., I pick them based on my history with the character and my preference for their playstyle. Now with the case of Min Min, I mained her in ARMS. But I also played as a Pokemon trainer when I played my first Pokemon game, right? Or Lucario is one of my all-time favorite Pokemon. Why does Min Min get special treatment? Why don't I play as Pokemon trainer in Lucario too? Well, I did play as Lucario back in Smash 3DS and Smash Wii U, but you get the idea, I'm not using him now. And also, I already stated that I didn't grow up playing Banjo-Kazooie, and yet I main them, so why does Min Min have me so confused? Why does she pique my interest? Well, Min Min has her own special story that's unlike any other fighter that I would potentially use in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Although I didn't really compete in ARMS, I didn't enter any tourneys or participate in too many ARMS-related events, I would still call myself a relatively big ARMS fan. I know the characters, I played the game when it came out and even before it came out, and I have a little bit of history with the game. Shortly after Nintendo first debuted the Nintendo Switch, in early 2017, they went on a tour and had various upcoming Switch games available to play. They had all sorts of demos for the big ones: Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you get the idea. And naturally, they had a demo for their then upcoming game, ARMS. At the time, I, much like any other reporters, thought that the game had potential. It wasn't bad, but I definitely wanted to see more of it. It definitely had that tech demo vibe. It got the point across, but would I want to spend $60 on a full-fledged game based on its concept? But I gave the game the benefit of the doubt and figured, well, I said similar things about Splatoon when I first played that back in 2014, and now Splatoon and Splatoon 2 are among my all-time favorite games. So we'll see. And as a few more months went by, ARMS started having more and more advertisements, and the developers began marketing the game's key and debatably best aspect: its characters. The ARMS characters just ooze personality, and the game's art style and direction made each of these characters so iconic and memorable. And sure enough, when the game eventually did come out, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. But the thing that I remember the most about the game was, without a doubt, its characters. And I think that's a brilliant thing for a fighting game in general. If you think about it, in games like Mario Kart, the thing that you might and probably should remember the most is probably a racetrack. In a game like Sonic, the thing you might remember the most is probably a song and some sort of level. But in a fighting game where every character is supposed to be different, if the thing that I remember the most is a level or a song, that just kinda seems backwards. But rest assured, I remember the characters very well, and I definitely remember taking a particular liking to Min Min. Just before ARMS was released to the public, Nintendo of America generously provided me an early review copy of the game, and I played as Min Min throughout my copy of the game almost any chance I got. But aside from just playing the game because Nintendo gave it to me, my most noteworthy story regarding Min Min and ARMS in general took place during E3 2017. E3 2017 was the first year in some time where E3 was open to the public. Prior to that, it was a privatized, exclusive event. But in being open to the public, Nintendo took advantage of the opportunity and held a few different tournaments for games that they were showcasing on the show floor that year. However, the players for each tourney that Nintendo was hosting were already pre-picked by Nintendo themselves. That is, except for the ARMS tourney that they were hosting. The ARMS tourney was an open competition where attendees could qualify to enter, and naturally, I wanted to compete. The qualifiers for the ARMS tourney took place on the second day of E3, a Wednesday. However, despite arriving at the convention center early and entering the show floor as soon as the public was allowed to enter, the line for the ARMS tourney qualifiers had already been capped. I was devastated. I was frustrated. What more could I have done? I got to the convention center as early as possible. I was right near the front of the doors. I went straight to the ARMS line. And you're telling me it was full? I was just flat out not allowed in the line. Nintendo would not let me join. But I figured that this is what I wanted my day to be. I wanted to compete in the ARMS tourney. I already played Super Mario Odyssey the previous day. I was playing ARMS today. It was stubborn of me, but I simply refused to leave that easily. I wanted to compete in that ARMS tourney. And besides, the lines for all of the other games are already too long. I chose to play ARMS, right? But in choosing to go wait in line for that, all of the other lines would have already been filled. If I wanted to play something like Pokken Tournament or Splatoon 2 instead, I would have to wait all day to play those. So, because I was already dead set on playing ARMS, I had to commit to it. So I instead stood on the sidelines and spectated the line for the ARMS tourney. The second someone gave up their place in line or a Nintendo representative said one more person could participate, I wanted to take it. And sure enough, after waiting for a couple hours, I was eventually allowed in line after the people in charge saw me standing around. But I was the last person in the line, no exceptions. That is, until Nairo showed up. And for those that don't know, Nairo is one of the all-time top Super Smash Bros. Players. No, that's not me sucking up. He actually is one of the best Super Smash Bros. Players ever, statistically. This dude holds a legacy of regularly defeating some of Smash's all-time top players. And at that E3, Nintendo had flown him out so he could compete in another tourney. He asked one of the Nintendo representatives if he could compete in the ARMS tourney, and they said he could, but he'd have to wait in line like everyone else. But they gave him a special privilege to wait in line, and they put him right in front of me. Was I peeved a bit? Yeah, but at least he's a nice guy, so it didn't really make that much of a difference. But I was at least thankful that Nintendo would still give me a chance to compete, even if it meant having to wait another 2 to 3 hours overall. But after those 2 or 3 hours, it was competing time, and the rules for the qualifiers worked as follows. Each player would first play a preliminary round against another player in line. Those who won the preliminary round would then advance to a King of the Hill method of qualification. In layman's terms, if you won your preliminary round, then your next opponent would be the King of the Hill, or basically the best player there at the time. A player would then need to win 5 times in a row, King of the Hill style, in order to qualify for the ARMS tournament. But these matches were done in a one-on-one format, one at a time. Basically, a player would remain as the King of the Hill until he or she was either dethroned by someone else who won a preliminary match, or that King of the Hill player won 5 matches and advanced on to the finals of the tournament. And that setup also had its matches displayed on a large screen on a stage at the back of the venue so that others could spectate. So, if I were to win my preliminary match, then I may have to face off against someone else who has already won 3 or 4 matches in a row. So whoever the player would be, that player would have already gotten more matches in than myself, and therefore that player would have had more experience than me. So it was a little nerve-wracking to say the least, but I knew what I was signing up for and I pressed on. I had to win a preliminary match, I had to become King of the Hill, and I had to win several times in a row. But it didn't help that I had to wait in line for several hours, and that made me have to use the restroom, but I couldn't use the restroom because that would mean giving up my place in line. So I was a little antsy on that front too. Keep that in mind. I won my preliminary match pretty quickly, and at that point I had to face off against the King of the Hill. And you know who was the King of the Hill when I had to compete? Who else but Nairo? At this point, Nairo had won 2 or 3 matches as the king. And then it was my turn to play. And like I said, I had to use the bathroom, so in addition to being nervous, I really had to go, so I just kept bouncing up and down as I tried to play the game. I simply could not stand still. In any case, Nairo and I began our match, we both used Min-Min, and it was a fairly close bout. But I'm happy to report that I was victorious! I was able to become the then King of the Hill after defeating a highly respected competitor using Min-Min, and to me, I'll always cherish that memory. So yeah, Min-Min helped me defeat a top-level Smash player, and I will always hold that bragging right. Anyway, the story doesn't end here. For dethroning a king at all, Nairo and I were both awarded ARMS t-shirts, and Nairo then proceeded to have all of his fans root for me. It was pretty heartwarming. But because I still had to use the restroom, I was still constantly jumping up and down in an attempt to hold it in. And since a lot of people were watching me jump up and down while I was playing, a bit of a crowd started to form with people saying things like, "Look at this guy." It looked like I was crazy, but it was nice to have people rooting for me. And eventually, I won 4 matches, each as Min-Min. This meant that I only needed to win 1 more match in order to officially qualify for Nintendo's ARMS tournament. But then, my next opponent fought me, and he eliminated me. I later learned that this player turned out to be a content creator named Reversal, who many may know for his Pokemon Go fame. I was very quick to congratulate him for his victory, and the crowd of people behind me were quick to congratulate me for my efforts. In fact, just before I left to use the bathroom, a Nintendo representative quickly caught up to me and said, "Hey, thanks for putting on a show back there. Nintendo would like to thank you for waiting in line and for performing well enough in the tourney by allowing you to enter Nintendo's VIP area." And that was like a dream come true. Prior to that, I'd never really been in Nintendo's VIP area. So of course I took up the offer, alongside a few other players that were also provided the same opportunity, and I had an awesome time. So although the day started off a bit rough, qualifying for the E3 2017 ARMS tournament remains as one of my fondest memories. And it was thanks to my ability to use Min-Min that I was even able to make it that far and garner that much attention. It was for that reason that I included Min-Min on my E3 2017 vlog thumbnail. And because Min-Min is associated with one of my fondest memories, it only stands to reason that I should continue my fond memories with her into my Road to Sakurai series by potentially making her one of my main fighters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And besides, I like having my fair share of backstories and reasons for choosing why I play as certain characters. And what better backstory could I have than that? Min-Min was a fighter that dozens of players saw me use as I attempted to win a fighting game tourney. And she helped me defeat one of the top Smash players in the world. She led me to meet other content creators like Reversal, and she helped me earn a spot in Nintendo's VIP section that year. If she could help me one day meet Masahiro Sakurai, then I think that all sounds like a perfect story. So you can probably better understand why I'm so excited that Min-Min is the character chosen to represent the ARMS franchise in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So do I want to main her? Of course I do, but should I? Maybe I shouldn't jump to maining her just because I used her in the past. See, as a competitor, immediately jumping to another character seems like a somewhat obvious thing to do. I mean, it's simple. Figure out a new character before others can figure out him or her, and then score a few easy wins because people don't know the matchup yet. That's not necessarily why I'd want to play Min Min, of course, but it basically means that a lot of other people may latch onto Min Min immediately. How many will continue to use her after the next DLC character is announced? We'll see. But in my case, maining Min Min would mean playing as her regardless of what other fighters are revealed next. But if I choose to main her, a few other issues arise. Namely, I already play as 4 other characters: Yoshi, Ice Climbers, Little Mac, and Banjo. Maining 5 characters is a lot, and simply put, I don't want to main 5 fighters. I don't want to go beyond 4 fighters ever. Even having 4 mains is admittedly pushing it. Most people would advise to sticking to only 2, but I chose 4 and I really should not go beyond that. So there's no way I'm gonna main 5 fighters. But if I want to main Min Min, what should I do? Okay, well, if I want to main Min Min, which, as I've already stated, I obviously do, let's have a look at my 4 other fighters. The first instinct might be to just say, well, Yoshiller, just drop the Ice Climbers. Your results haven't been too great with them, and you still can't pull off those crazy combos. That's all true, but let's be reasonable here. I've never been in a scenario where I've dropped a character, at least not within one game. Moving from one Smash game to another, sure, but within my time of Smash, I usually stick with a fighter all the way through. Throughout Smash 3DS and Smash Wii U, I stuck with the same 4 characters even after DLC was added. Smash Ultimate's a weird case because when I started playing the game, I had 3 characters, and I left an open 4th slot that was originally going to be dedicated to Isabelle or Richter. But then Banjo came out and he seemed like the perfect fit. But now that I have 4 characters, I was not anticipating a scenario where I would want to play a different 4th character instead. I didn't think I'd ever want to add another main to my arsenal, so the question is, should I? Should I main Min Min? Would it actually be unwise of me to pick her up and drop one of my other characters? In a competitive sense, what's the best move here? Well, let's go through my train of thoughts as I attempt to make a rational conclusion. I want to only main 4 characters. It's as simple as that. It's a silly rule that I put on myself, and I can easily play as more characters, but I'm trying to strike a proper balance between being decent at everything and being amazing at some things. As a competitor, I guess I should lean toward limiting myself, but no more than 4 characters, because then I slide too much toward the uncompetitive, casual side. I think placing my maximum number of mains at 4 is the right spot. Anymore, and I don't really feel as though I'd be able to better perfect my playstyle with each character. But playing more than 1 character allows me to better understand certain matchups and be prepared in case I feel one character may perform better than another. It's like having a backup option or a trump card, you know? So if I want to accomplish my goal and one day meet Masahiro Sakurai, I need to find out where I excel, but I need to keep a few options open. So 4 characters it is, and it's a rule on which I simply won't budge. And there are reasons why I use the 4 characters that I use: Yoshi, Ice Climbers, Little Mac, and Banjo. But some of you might be wondering, how often do I cycle between these characters, and how do I know which character to use when I play an attorney? Well, generally speaking, I guess my list of characters tends to revolve around Yoshi first. He's my ace, but when I play as him, there are some consistent issues that may occur when I compete in a tourney. In previous episodes of this series, I stated that I tend to struggle the most against more defensive characters, such as the Lynx, the Samuses, and the Belmonts. Although Yoshi's my ace and he might be said to have decent matchups against all of these characters, I personally struggle in playing a more slower-paced, footsie-style match. In my experience, Yoshi is best when he can get up close and wail on an opponent, but that's difficult to do when my opponents can properly space things out, stall out my hits, and force me to consistently chase them. So in these instances, when my opponent plays as a more defensive character, I tend to switch to Banjo instead. When I play as Banjo, I can play the game at my own pace. Although Banjo isn't the most defensive character, his projectiles allow him to play less aggressively and tend to allow him to better control the pace of a match. So in more high-speed rushdown matchups, such as when I play against speed-based characters and most all-around based fighters, Yoshi is my go-to fighter. For more defensive and sometimes more technical matchups, Banjo is my go-to fighter. The exception is if I face off against the Fire Emblem characters like Marth, Lucina, Roy, and Chrom can rush down my Yoshi and space out themselves fairly well. So in instances like those, while I can sometimes succeed when I play as Yoshi, I find these matchups to be a bit easier when I play as Banjo simply because, as I said earlier, I can slow down things and play the match at a pace that works better for me. Plus, as Banjo, I can often abuse my Wonder Wing to get through Violet's slow but powerful moves and gimp Ike and Chrom when they attempt to recover vertically. Oh, and the big matchup that I struggle with? Cloud Yeah, I prefer to use Banjo when I play against Cloud. Cloud has slowly become my worst nightmare in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but Banjo makes the matchup a little more tolerable. So there, I usually use Yoshi in most matchups, but then there are defensive characters, Fire Emblem characters, and Cloud, where Banjo is much more preferable. So what about Ice Climbers and Little Mac? In competitive play, I use these characters far less often than I do Yoshi and Banjo, but there are a few very specific examples where I'd rather play as them. Let's start with Little Mac. This may come as a surprise to you, but Little Mac is actually my favorite character to play as. Yoshi and Banjo might be my best characters, and I do have fun when I play as them, but I have the most fun when I play as Little Mac. At least I have the most fun when I'm playing as him and not losing in 30 seconds because I messed up one attack. But his fast ground mobility and powerful attacks that flow into one another are just so enjoyable to me. So when I play against friends, I'll pull out the old bruiser from the Bronx from time to time for amusement's sake. But there's sometimes a tactical reason why I might play as Little Mac as well. When I play as this Lightning Boxer, I may play as him to attempt to reset my fundamentals, if you will. The whole point of Little Mac's gameplay style is to stay as rooted to the ground as possible, get a few quick jabs in here and there, and land a fast finishing blow. Obviously, his poor aerial combat and limited recovery options cause many characters to defeat him with relative ease, but it's those negative characteristics of Little Mac that allow me to reset myself when I play him. See, when I play as Yoshi, I become a bit jump happy sometimes, and that can often lead to my downfall. But when I play as Little Mac, if I want to win, I have to be patient and I have to be careful. I become more focused on trying to read my opponents and be 2 steps ahead, rather than trying to go for some sort of crazy setup and then just hope that it works. Even when I lose as Little Mac, I can better understand my opponent's playstyle than maybe when I play as them as Yoshi or Banjo. And when I win as Little Mac, sometimes it's just oh so satisfying. Now, when do I use Little Mac in tourneys? Very sparingly, but I have used him. Even in matchups where Yoshi or Banjo might excel well beyond Little Mac, there are a few situations where I may start with Little Mac so I can get a better read on my opponents before he gets a read on me. There was a time when I entered a local tournament, lost the first game, switched to Little Mac, and then proceeded to win the set. It's hard to explain when I get the instinct to play as Little Mac, but sometimes he's just the character with the playstyle that I'm craving. And sometimes my mind does need a quick reset, and sometimes it has helped me in tourneys. But okay, hopefully this all makes sense up to this point. Yoshi and Banjo are pretty regular picks, and Little Mac comes in every once in a while when I notice something is off about my opponent. So what about Ice Climbers? Well, if it's not already obvious, they're the duo that I'm the most probable to drop from my main character list. And the local tourneys that I've attended, I believe I've only ever tried them out in a total of 3 different sets, and I've only ever won 1 set with them. The only other notable time I used the Ice Climbers was when I attended Versus Expo. And while I did win some sets with them, they just weren't too reliable for me altogether. I think I was just using Ice Climbers because I thought they had the stuff that Yoshi lacked. But I was wrong about that, because there are plenty of matchups that I might play now as the Ice Climbers, and when I'm playing, sometimes I'm just wishing that I was playing as Yoshi instead. Plus, during Versus Expo, Banjo wasn't a character in Smash yet, so I was really just using Ice Climbers to try and fill up that matchup void that Banjo would better fulfill later on. When I'd struggle against certain matchups, I'd think that switching the Ice Climbers was my best way of performing better. And while there were 1 or 2 select instances where they did do better than when I played as Yoshi, the truth of the matter is that that type of thing won't happen now. There are maybe only 2, maybe 3 matchups where I might want to use Ice Climbers instinctively. And they are against Bayonetta, Luigi, and maybe Mario for very specific reasons. These 3 characters have incredible combo games that often start with grabs. At least the first 2 definitely do, and Mario can get combo crazy. Although it doesn't necessarily mean that combos define Mario's character, but you get it. That's why Mario's a maybe. But when I play as Yoshi, Banjo, or Little Mac in these matchups, I can often get in great trouble. When I'm Ice Climbers, sometimes my secondary climber can knock out my opponents and allow me to end the combo. And that's basically it. The Ice Climbers have just become my combo breakers. Otherwise, when I play as them, I tend to rely on the same 1 or 2 kill options. I use side B way too frequently. And although I can play reasonably well as just 1 climber, I struggle to utilize this bone-chilling duo to their full icy potential. So I guess it would make the most sense that if I can't truly perform much better as these characters and find more opportunities where I could and would use them, then it would only make sense that these would be the characters that I would drop from my list of mains. And that's such a shame, because I was really excited to see them return, and I was really excited to give them a chance and try to excel at a more technical playstyle. I was really trying to learn those crazy combos and become one of those players. But the question now is, would Min Min be a good substitute? Would it be in my best interest to play as Min Min rather than Ice Climbers? I already used Banjo for more defensive matchups, and I already used Little Mac to try and get a better understanding of my opponents, so what would Min Min provide? another defensive option. And Little Mac already struggles with aerial-based opponents, and Min Min has that weakness as well, so now I just be playing as two different characters who can't defeat aerial-based fighters. Plus, in dropping Ice Climbers, I might still be combo food for Bayonetta, Luigi, and sometimes Mario. So, is dropping Ice Climbers in place of Min Min really in my best interest? I might not excel too well at the Ice Climbers, but they may provide more tools for me to use in certain matchups when alongside my other mains than Min Min possibly could. But that's not what's important here, is it? The question that started this whole conversation was, should I main Min Min? Because I evidently want to, but I kept looking at this like I wanted to have her replace the Ice Climbers. But rather than saying she's replacing the Ice Climbers, it's probably more suitable to say that I'm dropping the Ice Climbers and instead playing as Min Min. She's not supposed to be a direct replacement, she's supposed to be a unique fighter. The idea would be that I'd be playing as her because she'd be a fun fighter to use that could help me score a few tourney victories. It seems like she could try to help me with more defensive matchups, and her type of playstyle is drastically different than the other characters I use, so now that I've thought about it for quite a bit, I think that maining Min Min is a wise idea. Ice Climbers will always have tools that Min Min won't have, and Min Min will always have tools that the Ice Climbers don't have. But I think it's in my best interest to spend the time that I would be using as Ice Climbers toward Min Min instead. So, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna main Min Min!
Game! Min Min wins!
And with that said, I guess that means that I shall now be dropping the Ice Climbers. I've had fun competing with them, and I definitely enjoyed some of the crazy things I did with them in free-for-all matches. I guess I must face facts. If I'm not great with the Ice Climbers, then I'm not great with the Ice Climbers. And if I'd rather main Min Min, then I'd rather main Min Min. And it's not as if any of my time with the Ice Climbers will be erased. Their legacy will live on, and I'll still remember how excited I was to see them and that Everyone Is Here trailer. And who knows if I'll return to them one day. But I'm done trying to climb the old Ice Climbers mountain, and I'm ready to get spicy with Min Min. Anyway, welcome to the team, Min Min. Min Min certainly won't be an easy character to learn. And before you folks say, well, any character will be tough to learn, let me be clear. In the few hours that I've spent playing as Min Min so far for the sake of this video, I can tell that she's gonna have a steep learning curve. Throughout each Smash game, I feel as though I adapted to the playstyle of each of my mains rather swiftly. And even though it's debatable if I truly learned how to properly play as the Ice Climbers, I still feel like I was able to play the characters in the general way that they were meant to be played. But so far, Min Min doesn't seem so easy to main, if you will. She's a bit slower than I would have preferred, and her moves do not flow into each other in the same way as they would for my other mains. And when I played as her, I felt as though I was being punished for being patient. She can have a decent enough edge guarding game, sure, but she can also ironically be very easily edge guarded herself. I don't quite know where she excels just yet, but I'm determined to main her. She has potential. She's just going to be the toughest character I'll learn yet. Probably even tougher than the Ice Climbers, honestly. But considering I wasn't very good as playing as the Ice Climbers and I'm not very good as playing as Min Min, maybe the trade is more equal than I thought. So now that leaves me with my new 4 mains: Yoshi, Little Mac, Banjo, and Min Min. A bit of an oddball group, eh? But I guess that, in the grand scheme of things, these 4 characters represent me pretty well. Yoshi is my favorite video game character, Little Mac is my favorite Smash character, Banjo is the Smash character I never thought I'd use, and Min Min was the Smash character I never knew I wanted. But the fact of the matter is, Min Min is here, and that makes me happy.
Hey, thank you for watching my video all the way to the end. If you want to show your support, one of the best things you can do is leave a comment down below. So if you have anything nice you want to say about the video, or if you have any questions, I'll try to respond to whatever I can at my earliest convenience. Either way, your support means a lot and I really appreciate it. I hope to see you all in the future. Bye-bye!